both are calling from their office. Senator Warnock from Georgia.
Thank you so very much, Chairman Brown. We are in the middle of a housing crisis, and this is true, obviously, all across the country, but it is especially true in Georgia. We're certainly feeling it all across my state, where constituents are facing difficulties finding affordable housing in the Atlanta area and all across the state. And in this time of difficulty, some corporate landlords have been aggressively issuing eviction notices. Between January and April of 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, Pretium Partners and its subsidiaries filed 155 evictions in DeKalb County alone. Ventron Management has filed for eviction against the tenants of Brooks Crossing Apartments a total of 427 times since April of 2020. I'm happy to see Mr. Waller here, a fellow Georgian who has been on the front lines of this problem and helping these families who are facing eviction. If you think about housing, you're talking about healthcare. Also, people are more likely to be able to maintain a healthcare regimen. Kids are better able to study. We're talking about education, a whole range of issues. Housing is stability. Housing is dignity. Mr. Waller, based on your experience working directly with communities, are these companies targeting evictions to specific areas, or is this just, part of the marketplace?
Thank you, Senator. It's a pleasure to see you. So yes, they are targeting. Their activity we observe is concentrated in communities of color and low-income communities. And as a result, although they might be a smaller, larger part of the marketplace, in those communities, the threat from this type of institutional landlord is very real. And it causes additional destabilization. Again, it extracts wealth from these communities, reduces their ability to improve their circumstances or find new places for their children to live. It also reduces the ability of the community to support the education of kids and support the employment potential of their families.
Well, and you described well the impact of all of this, but what's motivating these companies to file so many eviction notices during a public health crisis?
The eviction system in Georgia is set up to support the needs of landlords. And so when you look at why landlords use evictions, it's not necessarily to remove a tenant. Eviction in Georgia is a very inexpensive process for a landlord. It can be very quick. And landlords have attorneys that are at their disposal, of course, but also the way the courts are set up, it's very inexpensive to use a landlord attorney. And so they use eviction filings not just to push people out and bring new people in. They also use them to threaten, intimidate, and coerce tenants into paying often unlawful fees, as well as paying up rent when tenants complain about miserable living conditions. And I should point out that tenants have zero leverage in Georgia. Regardless of the conditions of the home, the tenant is still obligated to pay. And so if they don't pay, they can be evicted. And so landlords know this, and they use it to their advantage.
Right. And you've talked already about the effects of this on families. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about the impact of this on children?
Yes, sir. That's very near and dear to my heart, of course, at Georgia Appleseed, and the impact is really profound and can't be overstated. So, first of all, these evictions, and it threatens, the threat of eviction filings has a tremendous psychological effect on the parents and puts them in a sort of a state, feeling like they're in a state of constant emergency. So there's a lot of stress associated with that. But involuntary moves caused by eviction have measurable, well-studied, and negative impacts on children. There's learning loss every time there's a move. There are behavior challenges that appear after several moves. These impacts also affect their classmates. There's something called school mobility, which has been measured a great deal. And the more school mobility that a school experiences, in other words, the more children move in and out of the classroom during the year, the worse the effect on their classmates, as well as on teacher morale and teacher retention. So the communities end up paying the costs, and not, when the landlords act in this way.
So all of us have reason to want to curb the activities of these bad actors. We all have something at stake here, whether it impacts us directly or not. Thinking about Dr. King said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And so I've introduced legislation to make down payments more affordable for first generation home buyers. And I support affordable housing construction and transparency on restrictions for building new homes. But at the same time, we got to do something to address these bad actors, particularly in the middle of a pandemic. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Senator Cortez Masto from Nevada is calling from our office.